Welcome to the show. We're going to be getting started in just a minute. Feel free to let me know what states you're going to be voting from. I'd like to keep track of that. We'll be getting started in just a minute. See as everybody's starting to pile in. We're going to get started in just a minute. If you're a registered voter, let me know what state you're voting from. We are about to get started in just a moment. Sylvia Wilson, hi, how you doing? What state are you voting from, Sylvia? I think we got it all set up. North Carolina, okay. I like to see that people are registered and gonna vote. All right. Just had to go through all of my setup because I haven't done it live in like 2 weeks. And it was a little rusty, but getting it back together. We have a lot to talk about because a lot has happened in the last couple of weeks. And I got to tell you, this Biden versus Trump election is becoming one of the hottest items on TV. It was hot already, but let's face it, every day there's something else that's happening. And if you saw the Timcast in real life episode last night, Trump was taking to social media on Timcast to basically stump for more voters. I found that really interesting, and that's part of what we're going to talk about. But I want to start off with something that's it's on my mind because I did a video. It's actually been pretty popular where I said, look, there's something that the polls aren't telling people. And I got a whole lot of responses to this video for saying something that I didn't really think was that crazy. It's a fact, but we need to talk about it. And first I'll explain that when I did this video, I just said, look, there's something that you don't hear polls admit, but it's important to understand. And that's that the national poll doesn't mean anything. I mean, the national poll means absolutely zero. I can tell you I'll explain it. I mean, I don't need a national poll. I can tell you which way Texas is going to vote right now. I can tell you which way New York, California, South Carolina, I can tell you which way they're going to vote right now, today. I don't need a poll to look at me, to look at anything there and explain it. So if I'm looking at national polling numbers, most of the time it's a bunch of gobbledygook because most of those states are locked in. The only thing I personally care about when I'm looking at polls is 6 swing states. I want to know what's going on in those 6 states, but it's not because I think the polls are accurate. It's just they're the best thing that we have. Now, I did a video about that, and a lot of people lost their minds when I did that video. Yeah, which surprised me. What will New Jersey? So Dylan Campbell asks, what will New Jersey vote? New Jersey's going to vote blue. I mean, if you look at 2020 and 2016, New Jersey is a blue state. Trump had a rally and he had 100,000 people. Let's call it 100,000 people in Wildwood, New Jersey, and a lot of people said that was going to convert New Jersey to blue. But if you look at the deficit, Biden won New Jersey by 700,000 votes. So that's not even a drop in the bucket compared to the gap he would have to close. And that's not saying that, Biden or Trump is going to win the election. It's not saying that at all. This election is very, very close. And some of the things that happened in the last couple of days demonstrate that both candidates understand that. But when people start saying things like traditionally red states are going to go blue or traditionally blue states are going to go red, I just think, that's not what I'm seeing. We've got a bunch of states that have been pretty consistent that don't have any reason to change. And we got 6 states that do matter. So it's in November. But we've got a lot of stuff happening. That was to Logan C. on when is the election, because you're in Canada. Oh, Ryland Tedford, hey, it's my birthday. Can I have a shout out? Happy birthday. Now, is it Ryland or Ryland? I'm assuming Ryland. So happy birthday, Ryland. How old are you? AS Games and Fun. Hey, Eggman. Are you the same? Okay, he's back. Shout out to all the listeners. Oh, and before I forget, if you like the content, click like, click subscribe, click the notification bell, so when I do my shows, you'll be notified. Okay, but back to content. So I just posted this video and was explaining basic things like, 6 states might swing. Because if you look at 2020 and you look at 2016, most states either voted Trump or they voted Clinton-Biden. And a lot of people didn't want to agree with that. They wanted to tell me that New Jersey was going to go red. Some people were saying that red states were going to go blue. And I just thought, if that's not a swing state and you haven't looked at the deficit, I don't know what you're talking about. That's just wishful thinking. But here's the thing that I was trying to get people to say, trying to get people to understand when I said it. Okay. Polls are garbage. And I'll tell you why. I'll explain it so everybody understands. In 2016, the polls said that Hillary Clinton was going to win. Didn't just say she was going to win, said that she was going to crush Trump. I remember those polls because I remember looking at all of the media coverage. I remember looking at the polls and I thought, wow, if these are accurate, this is going to be a landslide victory for Hillary Clinton. Look at these polls. These polls are going to, these polls are telling me that it's already over when it's not even election night. And I won't ever forget that I was sitting there and the question on my mind on election night 2016 was, which way is Florida going to go? Because looking at the polls, I thought, if Florida goes for Hillary Clinton, then it's already over. That's the election. And if it goes for Trump, well, then I got to wait for other states to come in, so it'll be a longer night. And you know what happened? I saw Florida go to Donald Trump. So I thought, okay, it's going to be a longer night, but the way the polls were played out, Hillary Clinton's going to win. Then I saw Michigan go for Donald Trump. And I saw Pennsylvania go for Donald Trump. And when I saw those 2 states go Trump, I thought, well, the election is over. Trump's, he doesn't have his 270 yet, but now it's unstoppable. How could the polls be so wrong? And I was kind of ticked off because I had my mind locked into this idea that the polls said Hillary Clinton was going to win, and I couldn't understand how they were so wrong. But they were wrong. Weren't even close to being right. Donald Trump destroyed Hillary Clinton in the Electoral College in 2016. He had over 300 electoral votes. Now in 2020, you would think that we ironed out all the problems with the polls. So you would assume that when we get the polling for 2020, it's more accurate. Technically that's right, but not exactly. 2020's polls predicted that Biden was going to win. But they predicted that Biden was going to win by a large margin, and that's not what happened. Biden won, but the margin was razor thin. 10,000 votes here, 20,000 votes there. Biden is not president. So if you look at the last two elections and you look at the polls were not predictive of the outcome. Not really. 2020 depends on how you look at it. But I'm saying no, because Biden didn't have this clear-cut victory that the polls suggested. Literally, a couple of thousand votes, and Biden is not the president right now. So when I'm looking at 2024 and I see polls, I don't really care, because I know that for the last two elections, the polls did not help. But I'll tell you something. Polls do seem to be kind of good at telling you what the popular vote is going to be. Polls said that Hillary Clinton was going to win. She didn't win. She won the popular vote. She didn't win the electoral college. Polls said that Biden was going to win by a large margin. That wasn't true. But in the popular vote, he did have a wide margin. So polls give you something, but they don't give you the result. And that's why you got to really get into the weeds to try to understand what people in states are actually saying. Are people saying that they feel good about the current president? Are people saying they feel better about the former president? That's what matters, and that's what we try to do here. Now let me see. I got some comments, so let me see what's going on. What's going on? I got to play some catch up. So we gave Rylan his shout out, and let me see. So do you think Trump or Biden will win next year? Well, okay, so this year, who do I think is going to win? Well, okay. So I'll tell you who I think is going to win, and I'll tell you why. Despite the polls, I think that Biden is ahead right now, and here's why I say that. 2024 is a rematch of 2020. So here's what you got to understand. If the exact same people go to the polls and they vote the exact same way they did last time, we're going to have the exact same result we did last time. That's just math. Biden will have a little bit over 300 electoral votes. Trump will have a little bit over 230 electoral votes. Unless people vote differently, we're going to have the same result. And that's the thing that's weird for me, is when I look at the people who are voting, I see a lot. Trump supporters are more passionate about Trump than Biden supporters are for Biden. But the Trump supporters seem to be the same people who supported Trump in 2020. The Biden supporters seem to be the same people who supported Biden in 2020. I hear a couple of people say they're going to vote for Trump now. I hear a couple of people say they're going to vote for Biden now. I don't see overwhelming shifts one way or the other. Might be wrong. I mean, I could be dead wrong. I'm not advocating one way or the other. All I'm saying is I don't see people changing their mind about the candidates. For the most part, people seem to be saying that they're going to do the same thing this time that they did last time. And that means we're going to have the same result. Now, that might change. There's a lot that's been going on the campaign trail where candidates are trying to change that. One of the things we'll talk about is that Trump went to the Libertarian National Convention to try to get a couple of votes there. So these candidates know that the race is going to be close. They know that they got to do everything they can to get votes, because it might come down to 10,000 votes here, 20,000 votes there, deciding who's the president, just like it did last time. Could be wrong, but right now that's my assumption, is we're going to have the same result. This is the only time in history that we've had this situation. Both the candidates, they've been president. We've seen what 4 years of Trump was like. We've seen what 4 years of Biden was like. So you don't have to wonder. You know exactly what these two guys have done. Question is, who do you like more? And I just haven't heard, well, I shouldn't say I haven't heard a full shift. I think it goes to a bigger issue. And here's the thing. This is really the big issue. What a lot of people don't admit to, but what everybody knows, is that the 2024 election is all about Trump. Trump is the story. People who are voting for Trump because they like Trump, they like what he's doing. People who are voting for Biden are voting for Biden because they don't like Trump and they don't like what he's doing. I don't hear tons of people who overwhelmingly support Biden. But I do hear tons of people who can't stand Trump, and that's why they're voting for Biden. And that's why I don't get too caught up in the polls. It doesn't really matter what's going on with the economy. It doesn't really matter what's going on with foreign affairs. The fact of the matter is that the people who love Trump still love Trump. The people who hate Trump still hate Trump. They're not changing their minds on that, so they're not changing their votes. So somebody's got to figure out, Trump's got to figure out how to convert some people who he didn't convert. Georgia, I think that's probably the easiest because he only lost it by like 8,000 votes, and there are millions of people in Georgia. That one I think he's going to get. After that, he's got his work cut out for him. He's got to, he's got to get in the trenches. He's got to campaign. He's got to fight. He's got to work if he wants to win. Same thing. Biden can't just sit back and assume that he's going to carry a victory. Because if Trump goes out there and he pulls a few thousand votes, he's going to be president. So Biden has to go out there and he has to fight too. This is going to be tooth and nail. The campaigning is going to be crazy. Let me see what's going on with the comments. Okay, we're asking an underage person if they drink. So I'm not going to get into that. So Ryland's like, why are you asking me all these questions? Just asking. Okay, I'll leave that. I'm not getting into that. I will discourage minors from talking about their drinking in the chat. I don't know, if you really are overage, it's a little different, but yeah, I would just say don't do that. Mail-in ballots help double count votes. Okay, classic game music. A lot of people say that. I'll say this, and I say this all the time. I don't think that 2020 was rigged. I think 2020 was legit. I know people disagree. Got to agree to disagree, because some people will never believe it was legit. Some people will never believe it was rigged. But I'll tell you why I don't think it was rigged. Chris Krebs was the head of cybersecurity for the 2020 election. Now, bring this up. I did this on my other live. Chris Krebs is a lifelong Republican. He voted for Donald Trump both times. He's the guy who was responsible for making sure every T was crossed, every I was dotted, there was no funny business. And Chris Krebs made a statement about the 2020 election. He said it was the most secure election in history. Those are his words. He's got no reason to defend the result because he's a Republican. He's basically defending a result that says Biden won. But he made that statement and didn't leave any room for doubt. And when he said that, that's when I said, well, if he says it, he's the guy who's responsible for it. It's his job to make sure this is legit. And he's not a Democrat. So if he's saying it's the most secure election in history, well, now anybody who says it's rigged has got to show me some data, because the guy who's responsible for everything just said it's not rigged. And I just haven't seen any data to say that I haven't seen any data that was substantiated to say that it's legit. There have been accusations. Most of them have been debunked from what I've seen. The dead voters, the illegal voters, all of that was debunked. So I just haven't seen it. I know some people will disagree, and it's a free country. But I don't think 2020 was rigged. Now let me see. What else do I have here? Let me see. Trump equals economy. Biden equals feelings. That's from Classic Game Music. Now see, I understand that, but I'll say it like this. Trump's economy, I think middle America recognizes one set of circumstances. And let's say middle America is kind of small towns, mid-cities, suburbs. When you get to big cities, they have a very different view on the economy and what progress looks like. When you look at the election really boiled down to big cities versus small towns. I did a map I was showing, I think it was Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, if you just look at the map, was overwhelmingly Trump. If you just look at the area on that map, and you take the counties and you go red and blue, most of the counties were red. But the counties that were blue were major metropolitan areas. You suddenly get Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, and that's blue, and that's got millions of people. These small towns, 10,000 here, 20,000 there. All those small towns barely add up to what's going on in those big cities. So, yes, I can see why some people see that Trump is better for the economy because he was better for their pocket. But Biden was better for other people's pockets. If you're big pharma, if you're big tech, and you're suddenly doing video calls and different drugs that people need during COVID, economy was great for you. So I understand why different people can be in different places on that. Let me see what else we have. JM says, I am dead wrong, my friend. Okay, if you are still here, what am I dead wrong about? If you're saying I'm dead wrong about Biden, well, I want to know. Because somebody asked me who I think is going to win. I'm not saying he's definitively going to win. I'm just saying I think he's going to win because I think everybody's going to vote the same way they did last time. I might be wrong about that. I don't know. But the guy asked me what I think. That's what I think. Mike G is asking somebody if they're a man or a woman. We got a lot of flirting going on in the chat. I'm not sure what that's all about. Classic game music, Trump support is massively more enthusiastic. It's true. Trump supporters are passionate. And Trump is a better marketer. Trump's a much better marketer. Let's face it. Trump supporters will show up with their red hats and they're cheering for Trump and they are identifiable. If there's a Biden rally, you don't have anything like that. There's no visual element to it. There's no emotional support to it. Trump's got MAGA, Make America Great Again. Biden didn't have that. Trump is a brilliant marketer. He makes it very easy to support him and to follow his talking points. He markets himself well. I've said before, Trump's PR team is 1,000 times better than Biden's PR team. It's not even close. Not even close. I used to joke around and say if I was Biden, I'd fire my PR team. But I do have to acknowledge, well, he won, so I could see his PR team saying, look, we won, so clearly we're doing something right. I don't agree with that, but, if that's their argument, it's a legitimate argument to make. That's probably what keeps them in business. But yeah, Trump's PR teams, it's just way better. Let me see. What else do we have in the chat? Have you done any research? JM, you're asking me? Yes, I have. I've actually done a lot of research. So, yeah. JM, if you are here, I want to know what you disagree with. Because I'm assuming that what you're saying is you think Trump is going to win because of the polls. I respect your opinion on that. But I already said I don't agree with the polls. And I told you why. 2016, the polls were wrong. 2020, the polls were misleading. Polls don't really seem to work at predicting who's going to win the presidency. So I don't really believe the polls. I do believe behavior. If people are voting, if somebody voted for Trump in the last two elections, I think they're going to vote Trump in this election. If they voted for Clinton and Biden in the last two elections, I think they're voting for Biden in this election. I believe behavior. Polls, no, I don't believe the polls because I think it's crazier to believe them than not to believe them because they've been wrong both times. That's just me. Um, Biden is best. That's from Sean Hayden. Okay. I want both sides in the conversation. I want this to be a place where everybody can sit and everybody can talk, and it's not a shouting match, and it's not just name calling. Like we can actually get into a conversation. Logan C. I love how you remain fairly unbiased in your political analysis. That's the thing. So this is a funny. I'm going to tell you a funny aside. There was a company a couple of years ago that wanted to hire me, um, and they had this software, but they didn't really understand what they had because they had kind of this idea, a way to bring people together and to let them talk about issues. And they were like going to use it to just do some surveys, like they were going to do polls. But I said, wait a minute, guys, do you know what you have? You have neutral news. You can sit back and you can have a conversation, and you can have the left and you can have the right, and everybody can sit down and everybody can talk. You have software that allows for that. You can't think about polls. You need to be thinking about the news and the story. And it kind of freaked them out because I don't think they thought about it, but they didn't want to take all of that on. They wanted to just do this thing that was simple. I'm like, you got Michael Jordan and you're saying you just want him to do some layups. Like, that's not what he is. He's a championship maker. Like, use him to win championships. Don't just use him to do this little bitty thing that you understand. So I'm talking to people and I'm keeping it neutral. And I want, I try to go straight down the middle. If Trump or Biden say something that's brilliant, they deserve credit. If Trump or Biden say something that's stupid, they deserve to be maligned. That's how it is. Keep it fair. So that's what I'm trying to do. Classic game music. Electoral is better than popular. I prefer the electoral to the popular because, and I know people are in different places, but we're the United States. The electoral fits with the idea of United States. Every state is kind of its own entity, but we figured out a way to come together. Every state gets some representation. Now, if you're Maine, you don't get the same representation as Texas. You don't have the same number of people, but you have a voice. Your voice is not muted. That I agree with. If we go to the popular vote, basically about six states, they would determine every election. Because if you add up California, New York, Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, and was it Georgia? The other states combined, it's like, look, most of the populations in those six states, all the other states getting added up, kind of close, but suddenly six states determine all the elections. And that's not what United States is about to me. Let me see. I'm Canadian, so I have an extremely basic understanding of the American voting system. Okay, I'll just explain it real quickly so you get it. We don't use the popular vote. So it's not like we let everybody vote, and then we count up the votes and we say who's got the most votes. Think of every state as like a house. So let's say there are 50 houses in a street, and you're voting on, the policy for the street. Do people have to curb their dogs, or do they have to take them out in the backyard? Every house gets a vote. We don't care whether you got 10 people living in your house and I got 2 people living in mine. Doesn't matter. Every house gets one vote. You add them up, and that's how you decide. Now, that's a very rough explanation. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's basically it. So it's not about the people. It's about how the individual states divided up their votes. Although some states have a lot more votes than others. Now let me see. Oh, Biden's son like white dust. Yeah, Hunter's issues. I'm not really getting into those here. I'm focused more on Trump and Biden, the candidates. If we start getting into the kids, that's a whole bunch of mess I just don't really go into all of that. New here, who are you voting for? We'll come back to you. Actually, let me see. So I'll tell you where I am right now, broke boy Oz. I'm voting on one very specific issue because I vote my pocket. I vote my pocket. I don't care about people's personalities. I don't care about their history. I don't care about any of that. I care about who's going to put the most money in my pocket. Now, right now, there's one policy I care, one issue I care about, and that's foreign affairs. I don't really care about. I don't care how much money we put into wars or any of that. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. I do care. I'm not voting based on how much money we put into wars or any of that. What I am voting on is who wants to do market research outside the United States, because I can compete for contracts on that, and if I get one of those contracts, those are life-changing. Now, right now, Biden's the only one who wants to do that, but that's not to say that Trump won't change his mind. If Trump wants to do that, then that's the only issue I have with Trump is I need these contracts because I want to be able to make a whole lot. You can make a whole lot of money if you get one of those contracts, and Trump doesn't. Trump. I understand why Trump does not support funding for Ukraine. I get it. We're wasting money on it. I get it. But at the end of the day, I can get rich. Well, I won't get rich. I can do quite well if we've got those studies available for me to bid on. So I need to know that that's available if you want my vote. That's just me. But I don't encourage people. I encourage everybody to vote. I assume everybody's going to vote their own pocket. I don't tell black people to vote Democrat. I don't tell them to vote Republican. I tell them, look at the policies and you tell me who's going to put more money in your pocket. That's who you should vote for. Now, is that what you do? Is that how you think? Well, that's up to you. It's a free country. But that's how I think. So if you put more money in my pocket, you get my vote. Does Trump wear wigs? Of course he wears wigs. Have you ever... I don't want to tear him down, but we've seen his toupee flap up. You're clearly a Biden supporter, which is why you're asking the question. What about non-announcing the president? What about not announcing the president on election night? I'm assuming that's what you mean. We can't do that. The whole point. You got to understand how America works. The whole point of election night is to turn it into a game show. That day, the whole day, is going to be devoted to the election and what we think is going to happen. We've got all this pregame, all these polls trying to explain who people think is going to win or not. No, building up to a winner. That's how we think as Americans. Nobody's getting away from that. It's too easy to sell network TV ratings when you're building up because everybody wants to see it. Let me see. I couldn't imagine being a voter in a two-party system. I don't really. I've seen what the Canadian system is, but I don't really remember it. You guys have your parliament or something. So yeah, I don't remember all of the ins and outs of the Canadian system. But I am a proud American, and I've got no problem with a Democrat and a Republican Party, and the realization that no other party, Libertarians aren't going to win. They're just not. I don't fault people for. If you want to vote Libertarian, it's a free country. I just think either Trump or Biden is going to win. So knowing that, which of those two do you want to see win? Your vote might be the vote that matters. So, you kind of have to choose how you want to use your vote. Let me see, what else do we have here? Will first-time voters have any impact on who gets elected this time around? Well, so let's think of it this way. It's not so much whether you're a first-time voter or not. It's, are you in a swing state? What I will say is, will young voters in Pennsylvania and Georgia and Michigan and maybe Wisconsin, will they be able to influence who's the president? Yep, absolutely. They will absolutely have an impact on deciding who the president is. If you're a first-time voter in Idaho, well, you can vote. Idaho's pretty much set. It's not going to have an impact. But Pennsylvania and Georgia, yeah, first-time voters there will absolutely be able to make an impact on the result. Let's remember, I think Georgia was like an 8,000 vote. It was either 8 or 11. I think it was 8,000 votes. Georgia's got almost 10 million people in it. We're talking about, a drop in the bucket. A couple of voters, yeah, that's it. A couple more ad campaigns, that might have been enough. Pennsylvania might have been around 27,000 votes. Again, you got tens of millions of people in Pennsylvania. If first-time voters all voted one way, would that have an impact? Yeah, that could absolutely drive the way people vote. Okay, we got some rain coming in, so hopefully that doesn't mess up the feed, but we'll see. Okay, one insane. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about there, dude. Someone said Ryland must be 14 or 13. One insane. What are you doing? We got weird. Okay, don't come in here with like weird sexual trolling, especially if we're talking about you talking to someone who's underage. That's not cool. Let me remind you, this public platform. If you're flirting with someone who's underage, you might want to think about whether or not you want to do that on a public platform where the FBI can look up your profile and figure out who you are. That's I would strongly discourage you from doing that kind of stuff. 150 supporters versus 20,000 person stadium. Classic game music. Okay, so what are we talking about? Wildwood? Wildwood. Supposedly the stadium was 20,000 people, but as we know, there were more than 20,000 people at the Wildwood, New Jersey rally. So they weren't just in the stadium. They were on the beach. This was on the boardwalk. So I'm not sure what you mean there, but if your overall point is that New Jersey's going to go to Trump, well, I don't agree with that. New Jersey has not voted for a Republican since George W. Bush Sr. That's not going to change now. Why am I acting like... Okay, is this... I think Ryland is talking to... Okay, so it looks like Ryland and AS Games are having a debate. Okay, so I'm just going to skip through those. Okay, Logan C., you're talking about the enthusiasm. I will admit Trump supporters are more enthusiastic, but at the end of the day, enthusiasm, that's not enough. He's got to convert new people. He can take all of his voters, every single voter he has, and if he makes them more enthusiastic now than they were last time, doesn't matter, because he's got a few less voters than Biden. So they can be as enthusiastic as they want. If he doesn't get new voters, he doesn't win. He has to get new voters, or Biden has to lose voters. One way or the other, Trump has to close the gap. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I am saying that he has to do, that's the job that he has to do. Let me see. I'm going to skip the Ryland and the AS Games comments. I think okay, that's more Ryland. Let me see. You guys have been going at it in the chat. Has Trump ever said anything brilliant? Ever? This is Nikki Star Nova. Has Trump ever said anything brilliant ever? Yeah. He said he's going to make America great again. That was brilliant. That was genius. Make America great again is genius. I saw it. All right, there was a post. It was a really good post. It's old, so I don't even remember exactly when it came out. But it was a guy who was like I don't remember what he did, like a plumber or something. And he was making a comment where he said, he was talking about like his job and going out to help people when they've got issues. He said, you know what? You go into somebody's house and there's a spill and there's a hole in a pipe and there's this and there's that. He said, person doesn't want to hear you talk about all the work it's going to take to get the job done. They want to hear you say you're going to fix it. That's what they need to know. I'm going to fix it. And he was talking about this like, this is how I approach these jobs. When there's a catastrophe, what I let people know is I'm going to fix it. And then he gets the job and he fixes the work. So when you're saying, has Trump ever said anything brilliant? Trump said, I'm going to fix it. When he said make America great again, he's saying, I'm going to fix it. Look at his talking points when he does a speech. Trump doesn't get into the weeds about how this, how that. It's, this is a problem, I'm going to fix it. These were problems, I fixed them. Like, I got a track record of fixing things. This is something that I can fix just like these other things that I fixed. That's the way he does his speeches. That works for people. So has he ever said anything brilliant? Yeah, he said some stuff that's really brilliant. You'll notice Joe Biden has changed the way he's starting to talk. Ever since he challenged Trump to a debate, Joe Biden is starting to demonstrate a swagger that Joe Biden does not normally use. I mean, like when he did that thing on CNN where he said, hey, Trump, let's have a debate. I hear you're free on Wednesday. Or he's saying, hey, we're going to, we'll meet up at the debate. I know you got to arrange your own transportation. But, he's doing like all these little digs, all this swagger. He got that from Trump. He got that because he realized Trump uses that, and that swagger works. That swagger is bringing a feeling back to people about America and the president that they don't feel like they've had. They're like, hey, I can relate to this guy. This guy's actually going to solve my problems. This is what I want. So yeah, don't. Some people underestimate Trump. Trump is crazy like a fox. If you think that Trump's a knucklehead, you don't understand him. Trump is brilliant. But it's a double-edged sword because the thing that works for him is his charisma and his out of the left field kind of presentation approach. That can work because that makes some people really like him, but it makes some people really hate him. So he has to figure that out. And that's going to be interesting when Trump and Biden have a debate. It's going to be very interesting to see which version of Trump shows up for that. Let me see what else we have here. Let me see. Nikki Star Nova. So why does land have more rights? So why do air? I'm not sure what you mean there. Why does land have more rights, have as much as a say? Are we talking about the Electoral College? Or are we talking about immigration? I'm not sure which one you mean there. So clarify that for me, and then we can tackle it. Any mind? Let me see. Sending love from DPRK. What is DPRK? You'll have to tell me. I'm sure I'll smack myself for not realizing what it was. But let me know what that is. Let's see. Trump has said lots of very intelligent statements, but he said some crazy stuff. Yeah, that's just it. He says some brilliant stuff. He says some crazy stuff. I would say the thing that's tricky is Trump gets misquoted all the time. And I really don't like that happens. That's not fair because the media will take Trump statements and mischaracterize them and misrepresent who he is or what he said because they got a narrative that they're trying to promote and they want Trump to look a certain way. Take, for example, did you hear the comment about Hannibal Lecter? The media tore into Trump because he said, hey, our good friend Hannibal Lecter. But he wasn't praising Hannibal Lecter. He was making a comment about immigration. And he said, look, some of the people who are coming in are crazy. They are completely out of control. And that's when he went to the Hannibal Lecter comment. He's like, there are some dangerous people coming into the border. Hey, our friend Hannibal Lecter, good old Hannibal Lecter, he was drawing a parallel and saying, there are people who are coming in who are just as crazy as that. Now, I don't agree with that, but Hannibal Lecter, that's a fictional character. Nobody's that, well, I won't say nobody. I don't know of anybody who's that crazy, but, you get the point. He gets his statements mischaracterized, and that's actually part of his appeal is if you're a Trump supporter, you look, and every time the media says Trump said something that he didn't say, well, that's one more reason to support Trump. It's just how it is. Let me see. And then you guys are just going, Nikki Starnova, I vote for democracy. I think everybody's voting for their version of democracy, but half the people think democracy looks one way, half the voters think democracy looks a different way. So people have to make their choice. That's why this election is going to be close. This shows just how much of a divide there is in the country between kind of the big cities and the small towns, people feeling like they're included versus being excluded from government, which is not supposed to happen. Our government is supposed to work for us. So yeah, this is one of the most interesting elections, one of in my lifetime, and I'm really curious to see how it goes. Someone's saying, if I suggest that people will continue to vote for the same candidate as before, is there any point in having a debate? So, yes, there is. Because there are 6 swing states where we don't know who they're voting for. 44 states are probably going to vote the same way they have in the last 2 elections. But 6 states are up for grabs. And the debates and the rallies and everything that happens is really designed to influence those 6 states. I don't know which way Georgia's going to go, but I'm pretty sure Georgia's going to go Trump. I don't know which way Pennsylvania's going to go, but I'm pretty sure Pennsylvania's going to go Biden. So yeah, there's a point to having the debates, and that's what it is. Do I think Trump sees past my skin color? I can't believe I had to say that, but okay. So I'll tell you something, Nikki, about let's be really honest about this whole idea of racial politics. Okay. I don't vote based on my race. I vote based on who I think is going to do the best for me financially. And I'll go one step further. If the candidate had said racist things in the past, I don't really care. Is this candidate going to help me make more money than the other guy? Well, then this is the candidate I'm going to vote for. Because at the end of the day, if you are a skinhead, but you're going to make me $1 million, and the other guy is a tree hugger, but they're going to keep me broke, give me the skinhead, because I want to get paid. I care about that more than I care about feeling good about the candidate. I mean, if we get really into the weeds, Trump has done things that, yes, are ugly racially. Biden has done things that are ugly racially. I'm not going to sit here and play a pretend game where I say, well, one of the candidates has been offensive and the other is not. No. Everybody's got blood on their hands here. You can get into like this chest beating contest, who's more guilty than the other. I don't care. I don't care about any of that. Who's going to put more money in my pocket? That's who gets my vote. And if I believe that you're going to put more, if I thought Trump was, he'd get my vote. If I thought Biden was, he'd get my vote. That's how I vote. I see tons of people who play this game of you're black. This is for the black community. It's you're black. You got to vote Democrat. Look, sure. Back in civil rights, the Democratic Party was the one who promoted civil rights. That was who was that? What's his Goldwater. Goldwater was a Republican candidate who wanted to shoot down Jim Crow, and it didn't work. And he made the Republican Party kind of the enemy of civil rights, and the Republican Party never got more than like 15% of the black vote after that. That was 60 years ago. Those guys are dead. And the guys who are there now have different approaches. If they're going to help me get paid, great. They get my vote. If they're not, they don't. If black people don't like who I vote for because they think I should vote my race instead of my pocket, that's on them. But I'm not letting that decide who I vote for. If they don't like it, I don't care. I'm voting the way I want to vote. I encourage you to vote the way you want to vote. We just might not prioritize the same things. People got to get over that. Um, Trump has a gross comb over. Out of sheer curiosity, Nikki, what specific policy issues make you feel so strongly about Trump? Now, I mean, what I'll say, and I don't fault somebody. Trump is a specific kind of character, and some people don't like it. Because for a lot, I mean, the people who dislike Trump don't want to vote for him. They more heavily cite his character than his policies. I did a survey on that. Trump's character is what costs him. And for some people, they want a president who presents a certain way. I don't fault them for it. That's not what I'm looking at. So it's like, look, if you want to vote based on that, fine. I don't necessarily look at that. But I get annoyed when somebody starts telling me who I have to vote for. I'm going to vote for who I want. I don't care whether people like who I vote for or not. I do think it's worth having a conversation if someone says, well, why are you voting the way you do? It's like, well, this is the policy that I'm voting on. I don't care about all the policies. I care about one thing. This one thing puts money in my pocket. And the person who promotes it gets my vote because I want to make money. That's the way it is. What do you work? I don't know who that was to. Ali, hi Ali. Work. You said work. I'm not sure if that's work or what. I don't know what you meant there. Do you feel good? I think it's North Korea. I wasn't sure if it was Korea because of the K, but with all the other stuff, like we just said, the Republic of North Korea, I would get it. Recton, we got more of these. A lot of trolls sliding in. Joe Mack, is that crazy? Logan C, 100% agree. Media takes lots of statements out of context, especially conservatives. That's true. That's very true. And I think that it's funny that they don't seem to have figured out. If you're a liberal media network and you want people to vote Biden, you're actually doing the wrong thing by mischaracterizing Trump. Because every time you mischaracterize him, you make people look at his statements honestly, which adds credibility. So I don't understand why people I don't understand why people who have an agenda haven't figured out that they're doing the exact opposite of what they're trying to accomplish with their agenda. That's backwards to me, but it is what it is. Pennsylvania actually has a lot of Trump supporters. I literally never see a Biden flag, but they still come out blue overall. See, that's okay. Most of Pennsylvania is red. If you look at the area on a map, most of it's red. If I was driving through Pennsylvania and I was looking at people's houses and looking at the signs, I would expect to see more Trump signs than Biden signs. But that's not really the question. In the area where you do have Biden signs, you would have a multitude of Biden signs. Because when you get to Philadelphia, where you've got skyscrapers and condos and a million people stacked on top of each other, that is overwhelmingly Biden. And that little area that is overwhelmingly Biden has more people in it than a whole lot of the red areas that surround it. So yes, you will see more Trump support driving through the country, but you can't underestimate how much Biden support there is in the places that support Biden. I don't have it up in front of me, but when I looked at Pennsylvania, I think there were only 3 or 4 counties in Pennsylvania that were Biden counties. It was small. I mean, it could have been, or I should say, it was like 3 or 4 clusters. So looking at the area, you're like, wow, look how much of this area is Trump. But the areas that were Biden have so many people in them that it just overshadowed everything. That's why Pennsylvania went blue. That's Biden's home state. So yeah, I understand where you are, but we got to keep in mind, Pennsylvania went to Biden last time. It went to Trump in 2016. It went to Biden in 2020. That one is going to be a very tricky one. I don't know if Trump's going to get Pennsylvania. I think he's going to get Georgia. I think Biden's going to get Pennsylvania. And then it's going to come down to the other 4 swing states. Mainly it's going to come down to Michigan. But, we are going to have fun watching that on election night. Kendrick or Drake. I don't even get into that. So as we get back to the show topics, click like and subscribe, and click the notification bell so that I gotta put my password back in, so that when I come up with my lives, you'll see them. Okay. So if you look at recent events, Trump has had a few rallies. Some of them I understood, some of them I didn't. I didn't understand Wildwood. I mean, sure, he had 100,000 people, but New Jersey's blue, so I didn't get that. The Bronx I understood a little more. Now, New York is blue as well, but the Bronx is proximity. Trump's in New York. He's got his hush money cases to deal with. If he's got a little time to do a rally and he doesn't want to have to fly halfway around the country, sure, the Bronx makes sense. If you're setting up, you're eventually going to do some sort of fundraising in the area and you're priming the market, okay, I understand that. He had a pretty good turnout. They made some good talking points. That's fine. I would say of all the things that Trump has done, the one that I was the most curious about was him going to the Libertarian National Convention, because he knew going in that was going to be a hostile crowd. So when you look at the response, because he went, he pitched, he got some cheers, he got some boos. I don't know what his expectations were. If his expectations were, look, I want to get a couple of votes, I'm going to ask for the nomination or ask for them to vote for me. I know they won't, but if I get a few of those votes, then great. If that was his goal, okay. Yeah, he might have accomplished that. He might sway a couple of libertarians who say, wow, this guy was willing to actually walk in here and walk into the lion's den and make his pitch. Biden didn't do that. I'll give him some respect for that. I'll get a vote. Okay. I don't think he really was expecting to get their nomination. I don't think he's really expecting to get an overwhelming number of votes for them. They're libertarian for a reason. He's an ex-president. He's the exact opposite of what they want. Those guys are not they're not voting Biden. They're not voting Trump. They don't like either one of them. And some people say there was cheering during his speech, which is true. But there were Trump supporters in the crowd. I mean, they had their Make America Great hats on. They were in there, supporting Trump. That was not a crowd where I was expecting Trump to get a very positive reception. He did about as well as I would expect given the situation. So I didn't understand that. But that was what he did. Let me see, we got a comment here. So if a candidate is able to provide you with money, increasing your income by whatever means, would that action confirm that your vote can be bought? Well, it depends on what you mean by bought. Okay. If a candidate is better for me financially than the other guy, he gets my vote. But I think that's how most people vote. I think that the economy is probably the biggest issue everybody's voting on, other than whether or not they like Trump. So with that, if you're taking it through that lens and you're saying, doesn't that mean you're bought? I would say that's the way the voting game works. Who's going to help me support my family? Who's going to help me put money in my bank, put food on my table? That's the guy who gets my votes. When gas prices go up, hey, I don't like the guy who's in the White House because my gas is expensive. So sure, we can say that the vote was bought, but all the votes were bought. So, it kind of undermines that thought that, one person is allowing themselves to be bought off when another is not. It doesn't count that way. So, yes and no to your point. I think it's much deeper than just bought or not, because it goes to the economy and who's going to provide a better economy for me than the other guy. It is not about selecting the best person for the job, namely governing a nation. Okay, it's bigger than black and white. Oh wait, I gotta go back. It's bigger than black and white. It is not about selecting the best person for the job, namely governing a nation. So, I mean, if somebody's, if somebody wants to go, racial politics, that's on them. If somebody says, I'm black and I'm voting Democrat because that's what black people do, that's on them. I'm not going to get into a debate with somebody if that's the way they feel. I just don't want somebody sitting there trying to give me a lecture about who I can or can't vote for, because I don't care. You don't have to like who I vote for. And I don't say that to be rude. I just say that to say, it's interesting that someone wants to tell me who I can or can't vote for based on their beliefs. So we don't necessarily share the same views. You don't have to like my views. I don't have to like your views. That's part of life. And I also think that's part of what we've lost. That's why people can be so reckless with comments sometimes, is because people don't tell them, why don't you shut the hell up? Why don't you mind your own business? You start telling people, look, I don't care whether you like what I'm doing or what I'm not doing. People will stop snooping into your business and trying to tell you what to do. But when we're accommodating and we're too PC, people just keep probing and prodding and presenting these expectations because they think you have to listen to them when you're talking about your own life. And that's just not the way it is. Don't mean to offend anybody, but I find it offensive when somebody tries to tell me what I can or can't do, so I fire back. Did I mean Daniel in the Lion's Den? Yeah, if I said somebody, I may have gotten my references crisscrossed. Yes, Daniel in the Lion's Den. I don't remember what I said there, so thanks for the correction. Let me see. Bree, welcome, Bree. Do I think Trump is going to be able to end the two current wars if he's elected? And what are your thoughts on Biden constantly funding Ukraine, putting their needs before ours? That's a good question, Bree. Do I think Trump is going to be able to end the two current wars? Okay, so let's talk about Ukraine. Ukraine is probably easier because we're propping Ukraine up by funding them. If he's president, he can't just unilaterally say, I don't want funding going to Ukraine, but he can start pushing for that agenda. He can't really do anything now. He's not in office. Ukraine stops getting funding, Ukraine loses. This is actually, you know what? I think it was Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney was doing an interview, and he was talking about Trump and Biden. And Mitt Romney got into the Ukraine issue. Now, he said that Trump has better domestic policy, and he said that Biden has better foreign policy. But he did get into Ukraine, and what he said was interesting. Mitt Romney was the first one who I heard say, Ukraine is going to lose. Us funding Ukraine is us throwing money down a hole. It is wasted. When he said it, I thought, well, then why are you saying that Biden has better foreign policy if he's funding Ukraine and you're admitting that funding Ukraine is just throwing money away? And what Mitt Romney said was, I think it was Mitt Romney, he said it comes down to your international presence. If you go out on the world stage and you tell someone, I'm going to provide you with $100 million of funding, well, the world expects you to provide that $100 million of funding. It doesn't matter whether the person you promised it to is going to win or lose. You made the promise, you need to keep your word. And if you don't do that, well, then when you start making promises to other nations, they're not going to believe you because you left one nation hanging that you made a promise to, so who's to say you won't leave them hanging? That was his issue for why he felt that we had to provide the funding. Wasn't because we could win the war, it was because we promised it. So yeah, I think that the Ukraine conflict can be ended quickly. Gaza? No. I don't. Trump would have to lay out a specific plan for me for how he's going to end Gaza. Gaza doesn't have anything to do with it. I mean, that's That's a holy war kind of thing. Like, what are you going to do to fix that? He got a plan. Okay, I want to see it. You can promise whatever you want on Gaza. I'm not going to believe it until I see it. That one is going to take a while. That one is getting worse, not better. And yeah, I don't see what he's going to do to influence that. That's not one that really is as focused on American interests or is influenced by America as as Ukraine is. So yeah, maybe he can end one quickly. I don't see him ending Gaza quickly. Could be wrong. As far as funding those wars when there are people who are suffering here, yeah, what Trump has sold very well and what Biden has sold very poorly is America first. I've seen it. I compete for federal contracts. Never win them, but I compete for them. If you do federal contracts, you'll see the feed with all the projects that are coming down the pipe. And I do very specific kinds of projects. When Trump took office, some of the things that came down were silly because they were like, the post office. How do we resurrect the post office? I'm like, you don't. Email has taken over. Mail is garbage. Post office is going to die. Is what it is. Quit wasting money on it. But some of the things he did were really smart because we got a lot of veterans who are struggling, who need to figure out how to get back on their feet. And they don't even know that we've got all these federal programs that are designed to help veterans get back on their feet. I want to figure out how to raise awareness of these programs that are designed to help the veterans. Now, I didn't see that under Obama. I didn't see that under anybody else. But I saw that pop up under Trump, and I agree with that. It's like, you know what? These are the kinds of things that our government should be doing. I don't know what just happened. I think a bulb burned out in the back, which is kind of weird. Okay. I don't know if I'm okay. I don't know what's going on. Some lights went out I got lights flickering in my house. Bear with me 1 second. I need to see if I'm losing my power. Okay. I'm good. TV's still working. I think that bulb just burned out. Felt like I was about to lose power in my house because of the storm. I do think that we could do a lot more for U.S. citizens. And I have seen Trump promote more U.S. focused effort than Biden. And that's part of Trump's appeal. But that's part of it. For a lot of people, well, let's face it, a lot of people just don't like Trump, and so they're not going to vote for him. Is what it is. That's not really going to change. Let me see. So let me. You haven't understood my point. My question and point did not make any reference to race. Okay, so Nikolai, I wasn't sure if you were asking me the question or if you were asking that other person the question. So you're asking me the question. If a candidate is, we talked about if a candidate is able to provide me with more money, and then you're saying it's not about selecting the best person for the job. All right, if you're saying that governing the nation, if you're saying all right, be clear with your question if I'm not understanding it. If you're asking me if I'm going to choose between governing the nation and my pocket, personally, I'm going to choose my pocket. Because let's be very honest. Okay? This will not be a popular opinion, but so what? It's true. Okay? Trump has shown that he can govern the nation. Biden has shown that he can govern the nation. Most presidents can govern the nation. They don't do it by themselves. There's a system of checks and balances. You got Congress. You got all these bodies that are working together. Nobody gets to just run in and be a dictator. We don't have kings in America. So I'm not really looking at how someone governs the nation. I'm looking at economically what happens because that impacts me. A war? I can't predict when the next war is going to happen. I can't predict when the next I can predict when the next recession is kind of going to happen, but you get the point. There are a lot of things that are like beyond my ability to foresee that really the president has to deal with when they pop up. Those aren't the things that are going to drive my vote. Whether or not I'm a better provider to my kids, yeah, that impacts me. You tell me as a candidate that you're going to make it harder for me to provide for my kid, you lose my vote. It's that cut and dry. If someone else wants to make a decision based on foreign policy, energy, any of that stuff, that's fine. I'm not voting that way. I don't tell people to vote that way, but I respect people's right to choose. My vote is based on my pocket. That's the only thing I care about. That's the only way that this makes sense to me. So yeah, that's how I vote. Language, yes. If I didn't know, if people are watch the language, if you would, because I do want to make sure that my videos don't get dinged or pulled down by YouTube. The metal, what about metal? What is metal? No, I cannot, because I don't know what metal is. Instead of just giving a bunch of money to Ukraine, the U.S. should give money to me so I can invest it and make a fortune. Ha! Okay. Ukraine is getting worse as well. I mean, Ukraine's not going to win that war. I care about our civil liberties and keeping the government out of most, if not all, of these many decisions. Personal, not or other. Okay, yes. But I guess what do you mean? Are we talking about, like, what do you mean there? Are we talking about Roe v. Wade or are we talking about something else? If we're talking about my civil liberties, I don't really feel like personally, I don't feel like my civil liberties have been impacted one way or the other. No more so under Trump than Biden. While I might not agree with all previously passed and proposed policies, I am certain that the GOP under Trump will wreck, amongst many other things, our personal autonomy, as has already happened. In so many cases, and I'm not willing to surrender my rights to a party that has strayed so far from what it once stood for. Okay, is the Republican Party of today what it was before? No. Is the Democratic Party of today what it was before? No. Here's my question only, alias, and this is not to say who you should vote for or not, it's just a question. You've seen 4 years of Trump, and you've seen 4 years of Biden. Did you lose your freedoms under Trump? Maybe you did. Maybe you lost something. And that's legit. But if we're saying the sky is going to fall because Trump or Biden gets elected, I don't believe that. We survived 4 years of Trump. We survived 4 years of Biden. If you look at the trends for the economy got better under Trump and the economy got better under Biden. Technically, Biden gets a win there, but that's only because COVID hit under Trump. COVID sent the economy into the toilet. It's not Trump's fault that COVID hit, but he was president when it hit. When you're president, you get the praise, you get the blame. So the economy went in the toilet because of COVID. It has since rebounded. Yeah. I don't expect the sky to come crashing in on our heads if either one of these guys gets elected. No, not the power. I think it's just my bulb burnt. My bulbs just happened to burn out, which is weird, but okay. For a second, I was concerned about the power, but my TV's still on, so it's just got to be the bulbs. Did I hear about the recent escalation on that front? The use of long-range missiles targeting Russia's nuclear defense system within Russian borders, as well as the UK state. I haven't seen the UK statement. It's all about power, the battery. Okay. I have not seen UK statement, so fill me in. If UK has made a statement about this, I'm assuming you mean United Kingdom, not Ukraine. But yeah, what is this? All right, do you mean United Kingdom? Do you mean Ukraine statement? I have not been up to speed on any news about new long-range missiles targeting Russia's nuclear defense. That would be interesting. But the moral of that story is still Ukraine's going to lose that war. It's not if, it's when. However, let me get back to, all right. I don't know if anybody saw Tim Cast in real life. He's actually a libertarian. I thought he was Republican, but he said he was libertarian last night, which kind of surprised me. He did a show, and it was Tim Cast in real life, now live with Donald Trump. I was very disappointed because the way he advertised the show, I thought I was going to be seeing an interview with Donald Trump. I wanted to watch that, especially given that it was Tim Cast. That's, it's not a major news network. It's not the traditional format. This is a podcaster, an ex journalist who's got a very popular show. He sets up this show, and for 90 minutes there's no Trump. Now it's a premiere, so I was kind of going in and out. I wanted to see the interview with Trump. There was no live. There was no. I know it was not. I know why it wasn't live, because you can't have a live interview with the president. Too many crazy people could come into the chat and say stupid stuff, and the next thing they know, they're going to have Secret Service knocking at their door. So I get that. But you said you're going to have an interview with Trump. So for 90 minutes, I don't want to see you interview Trump's aide. What was it, Kash Patel? I don't care about Kash. Seems like a good guy. I didn't watch the show to hear Kash Patel. I watched the show to hear Trump. He did 90 minutes with Kash Patel, and then he did 15 minutes with Trump. And I'll tell you something. I don't think he helped. I think he did Trump a disservice with the way he set it up, because Trump only had 15 minutes. So Trump didn't really have time to get into any issues. And it was a one-on-one format. So Trump just goes over his same old talking, his major talking points. He's going to fix things. Biden's broken things. It was very generic. And I don't blame him for it. It's like, he's only got 15 minutes. He doesn't have enough time to get into anything. But what ticked me off was that I had to wait 90 minutes for that last 15 minutes of stuff. And it also was very interesting because you got to remember, Trump and Biden are going to have a debate, and the first debate is in late June. And this is what I saw when I was watching Trump with Timcast, which is very interesting to me. Trump is a unique kind of presenter. Trump feeds off of a crowd. Okay, TV was flickering. I just keep checking to make sure it doesn't go off and I'm not losing my power. Trump likes a crowd. If Trump has got a crowd, he gets energized. And the way Trump presents, he kind of bounces around with his points. It's like he'll be presenting, and if he feels like the crowd is kind of getting a little bored, he pivots. So he uses the crowd energy to navigate his speeches. I've noticed that about him. So sometimes he'll just shift to a whole new topic because he thinks the crowd might be getting a little bit bored. And he's very good at kind of managing crowd energy. When he was on Timcast, there was no crowd. It was just a one-on-one. And Trump seemed kind of bored during the interview. He didn't have his usual energy. And I thought, this might be the version of Trump that shows up for the debate. Because remember, the debates are going to be in CNN Atlanta. And it's going to be just Biden and Trump and a moderator. No crowd. And they can mute the mics. So I think that the way it works, like they ask a question and a candidate gets 2 minutes to answer it, and then they can mute them. And after they've gone through the questions, then there's time for more free comments. But up front, you get muted. You can only respond to the question in the allotted amount of time. I don't think that's the best format for Trump, because Trump does best when he's got a crowd, when he's got crowd energy. He's not going to have that. So I think that Biden set this thing up very, very specifically, very, very carefully. And I didn't really see it until I was watching Trump on Timcast, where he didn't have a crowd and he didn't have a lot of time. And I thought, this is what he's going to have to face when he does the Biden debate. Huh? This is curious. This is a different lens that I had seen. So I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. Um, if anybody watched and they kind of got a feel for Trump, I'm also curious to see what they think. But something to talk about with these debates and with Trump is what we think we're really going to get. I think that it makes sense for the debates to be moved up. First debates in June, moved it up a few months. Know there are going to be mail-in votes. Know that people who are coming in with mail-in ballots are going to be doing that early. So you want to have the debate as early as possible so that you can influence those mail-in voters. I get all of that. I think that the format favors Biden because Biden is it's a small, intimate setting kind of thing. Now, if you look at Biden, like Biden just did an interview on Howard Stern not too long ago. Biden did well in his Howard Stern interview. You know Howard Stern is pro-Biden, so he set the interview up to make Biden look good. But he did. Biden was able to sit down. He was able to present himself in a different light. Like, I didn't know that Biden used to have a stutter, a really bad one. Like, his teachers made fun of him. His mom and a nun almost got into a fight because the nun was making fun of him. What kind of stutter do you have to have a nun actually making fun of you? You know, I didn't go to Catholic school, but I just don't think that's what nuns do. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the nuns aren't as kind as I envision them to be. But he was telling this story and he was talking about his family. He was doing all this stuff, and I thought, you know what? In this one-on-one format, Biden can show up really well. He doesn't always show up as well when he's got a big old crowd, but small format, yeah, he showed up well. Small format, that's not Trump's strength. Trump's strength is the crowd. Give him a 100,000 person crowd, he does phenomenally well. You're taking that away from him. So it's going to be really interesting to see this debate in June. And there's going to be another debate in September, mid-September. So I think this is the new format for debates because mail-in voting is here to stay. It just is. People, at some point, everybody's going to be mailing in or using their phone and submitting their votes. Nobody's going to be going to the polls. Not in the future. It's a matter of time. This is the new way. Let me see. Logan C. Then again, when Trump is talking with other foreign leaders, it will most likely be a one-on-one conversation without the crowd. Okay, so yes, but that's different. Right? If he's talking to a foreign leader, he's got leverage. And Trump talks about this a lot. Trump approaches foreign affairs like business. That's always his approach to things. He looks at countries and he focuses on how much money are we paying you and what are we getting for it. And when he looks at foreign governments, he's like, you know what? We're spending a whole lot of our money on you and we're not getting a lot for it. If you don't start playing fair, we're going to take our money away. He talked about France. He said that he had issues with France where we were providing money to them and they weren't giving us, like, I forget what the benefits were. Basically, France was shortchanging us. And Trump said, you know what? Your biggest export to us is wine. I'll put 100% tariff on all of the wine that you ship. I will shut you down. He's got leverage. So he doesn't really need a crowd when he's talking to, a foreign diplomat because he's got leverage. He's got financial leverage. We're the U.S. We're richer than you. We're paying you to do something for us. You're not doing your job. Start doing your job or we'll take the money away. Apparently I don't know the backstory of this, but Trump basically describes it as other leaders don't pull the trigger. They just bluff. So they'll say, well, we'll take your money, and they never do, and the countries all know that oh, you're not really going to take the money, so we don't have to play well. And he was the first one who said, no, I really am going to take the money. I'll let you guys go broke and starve. I don't care. I'll put this money into the U.S. or I'll get what I'm paying for out of you. So it's a little bit different. I think that with the crowd, without the crowd, it's going to be much tougher for Trump because the way he presents, he gets feedback from crowd energy. And he's not going to have crowd energy to use to guide his conversation. So, yeah, I just want to see how that's going to go. But I am curious. I don't think this format was chosen, without a lot of careful thought as to who's going to have the easier time with it. Kathy Barr. Hi, Kathy Barr. How are you? Let me know what state you're voting from. And for everybody who's in, click like, click subscribe, click the notification bell, so that when I do my pop-up lives, you'll see them and you can participate. Kathy is a troll. Okay. Let me see. They're scripted. So, scripted. Well, I mean, are they scripted? Look, when Trump and Biden do a debate, is it scripted? I don't know. I can predict what some of the questions are going to be right off the bat. We know they're going to talk about the economy. We know they're going to talk about immigration. We know they're going to talk about Ukraine. We know they're going to talk about Gaza. I don't need to know what the exact questions are. I know they're going to have questions about those things. And you can spend a little time, you can kind of figure out what type of questions they're going to ask. So, yeah, let's say maybe 80% of what they're going to be asked about is predictable. The other 20%, well, that's weird. You don't know. Like, when Tim Kass interviewed Trump, Tim Kass is a libertarian. So one of the things he asked Trump about was whether or not he was going to pardon Julian Assange. Kathy Barr says, sorry. Okay. Appreciate it. Yep. I encourage everybody to participate. Don't encourage trolling, but, real participation. Yeah, you got questions, you got comments. That's what we're here for. So, Julian Assange is a big libertarian. He's a libertarian hero. And they're saying free Assange. They're also saying free Ross. I don't know who Ross is. But Tim Kass was asking Trump if he would pardon Assange if he's elected. And Trump was basically saying he would look into it. I don't know if he would or not. I don't care about that. I don't care about Julian Assange. I don't think he's a hero. He's a media personality. He crossed some lines, dealing with what he's dealing with. What I do care about is the economy. I would have rather, if Tim Kass only has 15 minutes with Trump, had him ask Trump, how are you going to turn the economy around? We're not in a recession, but we sure darn feel close. What are you going to do about this? How long is it going to take? I would have enjoyed seeing a conversation, not a gotcha conversation, just a conversation where you say, you know what? These are the problems that America has. What are you going to do to fix these specific things? I would have enjoyed that. Got to wet my whistle, getting a little dry. Now, he only had 15 minutes, so he didn't have enough time to get into all the details. But that's why you don't do 15 minutes. If you say you're going to have an interview with Donald Trump, have an interview with Donald Trump. Get into the details. I was very disappointed with that piece. So, would have liked to have seen that. Now, I know Trump did a he did Indy 500. I haven't seen his Indy 500 speech, but I'm not assuming that one's going to be, it's the Indy 500. People are going to see the race. It's probably quick. I need to take a look at it. However, let's talk about the one thing that came out of the Libertarian National Convention that I would say is a problem. And if I was Trump, I wouldn't have gone to the Libertarian National Convention because he opened up a can of worms that you don't want to open up. And that can of worms is RFK Jr. RFK Jr. has been trying to gain relevance in this election for as long as he's been running. RFK Jr. has argued that he should be part of the debates, even though he doesn't meet the minimum threshold. RFK Jr. has challenged Trump and Biden to debate him in all sorts of formats. And Biden's ignored him, which he should. Trump has mostly ignored him, which he should. My understanding is that the Libertarian National Convention was potentially going to set aside some time for RFK Jr. and Trump to have a debate. And Trump basically said, this guy's not worth my time, I'm not doing that, which was smart. RFK Jr. is a tiny contender. If you debate him, you make him more popular. You basically give him a platform so he can talk about his points and convince people to vote for him. There's nothing to be gained by having a debate with RFK Jr. But there is something to be lost in being on stage with RFK Jr. Okay. At the Libertarian National Convention, Trump got some applause, but he also got some boos. And I don't remember, right, Trump has held rallies. And maybe there are protesters who are on the outside, but the people who are watching the show aren't booing. This is the first time we saw Trump getting booed by the crowd. I don't blame them. They're libertarians. Like, why are you talking to the libertarians? They don't like you. Libertarians don't like Republicans or Democrats. That's who they are. But Trump was getting booed, and you could see that it was bothering him. I get it, but that's the crowd he was in. There's a report that RFK Jr. passed out rubber chickens before Trump's speech. So he was, it was like these squeaky rubber chickens. You squeak them, they can interfere with Trump while he's presenting. I didn't hear anybody squeaking the rubber chickens. Maybe they were, and I just couldn't hear it on the cameras. But that wasn't really the point. The point was RFK Jr. was passing out these rubber chickens, which was basically saying that he was saying don't take Trump's speech seriously. He's like, let me give you guys some gag gifts so that you don't take the speech seriously. And we're going to have it on camera, and we're going to film it, and it'll be fun to kind of annoy Trump while he's speaking. So he planted those seeds. He basically set the situation up to make it almost impossible for Trump to succeed. Trump made some talking points. He did one thing that I would say was a problem. Well, he made his talking points, and his talking points aren't going to work with libertarians. But he said one thing that I thought, ooh, that was a mistake. That's going to hurt you. He basically asked him a fair question, but it was an insulting question, because he said, look, do you want to vote libertarian and lose, or do you want to join the winning team? That wasn't the exact wording, but that was the idea. He's like, why are you going to vote libertarian? That's a wasted vote. Why don't you vote and win? And that comment did not get received well. That was kind of like talking to somebody who's got an ugly baby and telling them they have an ugly baby. I mean, it's true, but that's not going to be received well. So Trump did that. Then he's done. And then RFK Jr. goes on stage. Here's the problem Trump had. This is, Biden didn't even go, didn't bother. But here's the problem Trump has when he's at the Libertarian National Convention. When RFK Jr. goes on stage, RFK Jr. has the easiest speech possible, because all he has to do is say, hey, you see that guy? Let me tell you everything that I think he did wrong. He took COVID. He basically blamed Trump for COVID, laid COVID right at Trump's feet. He walked through all the things that he said were Trump missteps. And these are libertarians. They are really excited about what RFK Jr. has to say because he's trashing a president. RFK Jr., I never listened to RFK Jr. make a speech before. But because of the setup and because Trump had just talked at the National Convention, the Libertarian National Convention, and now RFK Jr. was speaking, I thought, well, I'm here. I want to see. I mean, I wasn't there, but I was. I'm here on the channel. I want to see what he has to say. You have to get used to listening to him speak. He's got. I think everybody knows about the brain worm. A worm ate a little bit of his brain and died, and then he's got other neurological issues. His health. I would be very curious to know what his health status is, but he's got a very trembly voice. He doesn't sound healthy. He sounds like somebody who's like got like high blood pressure and diabetes and all sorts of things wrapped up. And you're thinking, are you going to make it through 4 years? That's his voice. It trembles. It sounds like he's struggling to talk. Makes you think he's not healthy. But he talked about it. He's got these neurological things going on. But once you get past the voice, well, then you're just listening to him talk. No, he's a smart guy. He's a Kennedy, charismatic. He's got a lot of great thoughts on things. I'm not going to vote for him. But if you're kind of on the fence and suddenly you got RFK Jr., he just got free advertising. That was the biggest problem with the Libertarian National Convention, is you have to ask the question. Okay, so Trump went in there and he may have gotten a couple of votes, but how many did he potentially get? And how many did he potentially give to RFK Jr.? Because the crowd was applauding RFK Jr. I didn't hear any boos for RFK Jr. Now, RFK Jr. has never been president, so the Libertarians didn't have a reason to dislike him, unlike the feelings they had for Trump. I personally, I don't think that the Libertarian National Convention was a good move. I think he lost more than he gained from that, but we're going to have to see. And I also think that there are going to be two narratives about the Libertarian National Convention. If you're a Republican, you're going to say Trump is leaving no stone unturned and trying to get votes and win the election. If you're a hardcore Democrat, you're going to say Trump's desperate for votes. He knows he needs them to win. So it's something that could potentially come bite him in the butt. We're going to have to see how people spin it. But that's a very dangerous can of worms that I think he kind of opened, and that it's going to be hard to close that box back up. So we're going to have to see. That one might be more dangerous than he anticipated. Let me see. Lucas Drennan, welcome, Lucas. Lucas Drennan says the Good Liars covered the Libertarian Conference. It's good to listen to others' views. The Good Liars covered the Libertarian. Okay. So I saw CNN covered it. CNN's pretty liberal. And there was this network, Right Side Broadcast Network, RSBN. They're very conservative. And they covered it. They had the best live feed from what I saw. That was the live feed I saw. So I saw coverage from both sides. I saw a liberal and a conservative network covering it. I didn't see Fox there, so you could say the liberal network took it more seriously. And Lucas is saying right side follows Trump rallies. Okay, I had never heard of Right Side Broadcast Network before this. Usually, if I'm watching a Trump rally, I'm going to watch it on CNN or MSNBC or a major network. This was the first, this one was digital, so it wasn't televised. This was the first time I saw it. For the most part, I think that they were fair. Although the only thing I saw them misrepresent was they were kind of saying that the crowd was cheering for Trump, which is kind of true, kind of not. From what I could tell, there were Trump supporters who went to this convention because they wanted to hear Trump speak. And when Trump made points, Trump supporters, who have their Make America Great hats on, they were cheering for him. But they're not libertarians. The libertarians were really not supporting Trump. But let's face it, Trump went in and he had his talking points. He's saying, look, the borders are too open. I'm going to use big government to do this. Look, we've got wars. I'm going to use big government to do that. He's talking about things he's going to fix wielding the power of the presidency, but that's the exact thing libertarians don't want to hear. They want to hear that you're going to stay out of things. So that was a very tough situation. Um, I don't blame Biden for saying don't want to deal with it. I don't blame Trump for walking in there and saying I'm going to try to get some votes. But I do think that you have to ask the question, did you gain more votes than you lost? And I don't know about that because I didn't hear him convincing libertarians to vote his cause. If anything, he further entrenched them. And if they were kind of on the fence about being libertarian before, well, now they're resolved. They're absolutely going to be libertarian now. So that one is just weird. I wouldn't focus on libertarians. I think that's a lost cause. Lucas Drennan, Trump got 8 votes. Okay, so you're saying he didn't get many votes out of the. I don't think he got many votes out of that. 8. I can't put a number on it, but yeah, I think that was tricky. I wouldn't recommend focusing on them anymore. Root Beer VR. I hate Biden. You know what, Root Beer? About half the country is with you, and about half the country says they hate Trump. And this election is not so much about. A lot of this election is about voting against the person that you hate. I think Trump has more people who are voting for him because they like him than Biden does. Biden's got a lot of people voting for him because they don't like Trump. And that's just what I did. I did 2 videos on this. This was like a month or 2 ago. But I literally said in my videos, the title of the first video, tell me why you hate Donald Trump. Title of the second video, tell me why you hate Joe Biden. So 2 videos, I just wanted to see, okay, which video gets more comments? And what did people say? People who hated Trump just listed all these character things about him. It had nothing to do with his policies at all. It was January 6th. It was business deals. It was allegations of sexual assault. That's why they hated Donald Trump. People who hated Joe Biden basically talked about his policies. They talked about immigration, the economy. So it was very funny to look at this because it was like, wow, policies, personality. It was as clear as day. Those were the issues that people were voting on. If Trump wasn't, like, let's say hypothetically, just hypothetically, if RFK was the Republican candidate instead of Trump, Biden would have no chance. Because the only reason some people are voting for Biden is because they don't like Trump. And if there was a different person, boom, they would shift. I don't see the confidence in Biden that I see Trump supporters have for Trump. That is what it is. But RFK doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't have the backing. He doesn't have the support, and he's not going to have the support. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to look at the election at 8 p.m. on election night, because here's what's going to happen. I think Georgia is going to get called, and Georgia is going to get called for Trump. I think Pennsylvania is going to get called, and Pennsylvania is going to get called for Biden. And then at roughly 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on election night, there's going to be enough voting that's in for Michigan to get called. And here's how that goes down. If Trump wins Michigan, it's over. Done. The election is Trump's. If Biden, Trump he won't have 270. But when you look at the states that are left to come in, if all he has to do at that point is win all the red states that always vote red, that's pretty much a guarantee. So Trump's the president. If Biden gets Michigan, Biden doesn't have enough for 270. But now what you're saying is, well, let's see, Pennsylvania went Biden and Michigan went Biden. And pretty much at that point, if any other swing state goes Biden, Biden's at 270. And it'll be hard to believe that none of the other swing states are going to go Biden if he gets Pennsylvania and he gets Michigan. Because Michigan and Wisconsin in particular seem to vote the same issues. So if Biden gets Michigan, that means he's saying the stuff that Wisconsin wants to hear. Then it's 8 p.m. Mark my words. And I'm gonna go live I'm probably gonna take a day off work on election day because I'm just gonna want to spend the time seeing what happens. But at 8 p.m. on election night, we're gonna see Michigan and we're gonna know what happened. I gotta wet my whistle because I'm dry. So I am very excited to see how this turns out. I want to see all the twists and turns that we take on our way. I think that from what Trump has said, when Trump was at where was he? When he was at Wildwood, he was talking about potentially unveiling something in Wisconsin. I don't know. Viper 007. Hey, how you doing, man? Thank you for rejoining the show. Right now we're using this format. For those who don't know, Viper's a regular. Viper will probably be my first mod. I can't do mods in this format. But when I do go to a format where I can do mods, yeah, Viper's definitely there. That guy is, yeah, I knew he was going to say that. Viper always reminds people to like and subscribe. I forget to do that. So yes, thank you, Viper, for keeping people honest. We are kind of at the end, but I did just want to say that there's a lot of false information out there, and I try to keep things honest for people. The polls are irrelevant for this election because in 2016 the polls were wrong. In 2020, the polls in 2016 said that Hillary Clinton was going to win. The polls in 2020 said that Joe Biden was going to win and win by a large margin. And neither of those things happened. So I don't care about the polls. When people talk to me and they start talking about what the polls say, I tell them I don't care because the polls have not shown me that they are accurate in predicting outcomes. What we can do, what we have to do, is talk to people who have to say. And especially if we're in swing states where there is the potential to switch from one candidate to the other, we got to know what's going to happen because that's going to be what determines the election. If you're not registered, please register. If you are registered, please vote. The last good man in Jersey, signing out until next time.